Deep within the dungeon, the hunters had followed the orcish forces and finally reached the boss chamber. The room resembled a grand palace, teeming with thousands of orcs. Seated on a throne at the far end was the dungeon's boss, Kargalgan, the shaman of the high orcs, flanked by 4 orcish generals. Kihun, surveying the vast horde of high orcs, realized that if they were to break free from the dungeon and enter the city, they would wreak havoc. He knew he had to eliminate the dungeon boss before that could happen. The other hunters stood ready, awaiting Kihun's signal to attack. However, Kargalgan removed his mask, unleashing an intimidating surge of energy that sent shivers down the hunters' spines. They felt as if their bodies were being torn apart, filled with primal fear. Overcome with fear, Kihun trembled as he asked why Kargalgan had brought them to his place. With a cruel grin, Kargalgan declared that it was for their amusement. The orcish forces would slaughter the hunters one by one, and the crowd of orcs erupted in cheers. Kihun was speechless at their disregard for human life. The orcs saw them as mere playthings to be discarded at will. With a surge of fury, Kihun let out a roar and signaled for the hunters to charge. He lunged towards Kargalgan, who remained seated on his throne. However, the other hunters froze in place, paralyzed by fear. Kihun couldn't retreat. He leapt forward, striking Kargalgan with his sword. However, with a flick of his wrist, Kargalgan activated his magic, the Hymn of Protection. A formidable barrier erupted, deflecting Kihun's attack with a resounding clang and sending him flying backward. Then, Kargalgan unleashed his mastery of gravity magic, lifting Kihun into the air and then slamming him into the ground, shattering the ground around him. Kihun was repeatedly slammed to the ground with cruelty, and the hunters who witnessed the scene could only cry and watch helplessly. However, suddenly a mysterious movement stopped the torture, and it was Jinwoo who managed to save him. And then he said to Kihun, "This dungeon is the Hunters Guild property. I can't just interfere, but this attack force is about to be wiped out. Let me ask you just one thing. Can I kill all the monsters present in this room?" Simultaneously, Kargalgan commanded one of his generals to assault Jinwoo. The orc swiftly maneuvered and ready to strike Jinwoo with his axe. However, Jinwoo calmly activated his skill, Dominator's Touch. The orc got a taste of zero-gravity courtesy of Jinwoo's skill. Unfortunately, his free flight ended abruptly with him becoming a ceiling decoration. With the distraction eliminated, Jinwoo turned back to Kihun and inquired once more. "All the monsters here, can I kill all of them?" With a face bearing the marks of a brutal beating, Kihun pleaded, "Please, please help us." Meanwhile, from his throne, Kargalgan said, "You have quite an amazing talent for a mere human, but how can you fight against all of us?" However, Jinwoo responded with a smile and said, "I have never felt such powerful energy before. But this is a terrible matchup for you. Come forth, my shadow." The shadow warrior emerged from Jinwoo's shadows, and the other hunters watched in astonishment as more creatures materialized from the darkness. With his army of shadow warriors at his side, Jinwoo stands poised for battle against the high orc forces. Will Jinwoo and his warriors prove their worth? Meanwhile, outside the gate, a surveillance team from the Hunter Association had arrived. Chief Inspector Woo Jinchul approached the mining team leader and inquired about Jinwoo's whereabouts. The leader explained that Jinwoo had entered the dungeon as a porter and informed him that Hunter Cha was also looking for him and had entered the dungeon. Jinchul was wondering what Jinwoo was up to, and now Hunter Cha was also curious about him. Jinchul and his team began to move towards the dungeon. However, as he approached the gate, he suddenly felt a surge of powerful magic energy that shattered his glasses into pieces. The surveillance team immediately remeasured the gate's magic power, and the results shocked them as the magic power of this gate was equivalent to an S-rank dungeon. Jinchul realized that the hunters were in danger, so he and his team immediately entered to save them. Inside the dungeon, Hunter Cha was stunned by the sight of countless orc corpses. She couldn't believe Kihun and his team had done this. Suddenly, she felt a terrifying surge of magic energy. She knew that if this energy was coming from the dungeon boss, none of Kihun's team would survive. Clutching her pickaxe, Hunter Cha prepared to head toward the dungeon boss room. We return to the boss's room. Jinwoo and his shadow warriors stand ready for battle, facing off against the orc forces. Jinwoo activates his skill, Domain of the Monarch, which grants a 50% stat boost to all of his shadow warriors. The hunters gape in disbelief, As an E-rank hunter, Jinwoo summons a massive number of creatures, while they as a rank hunters can only summon 2 creatures at most. Kargo then gave the order to his troops to begin their attack. Iron activated his taunting cry skill to provoke the orcs, and as they lunged at him, he swung his axe with deadly precision, cutting them down one by one. Igers, with his sword in hand, moved with lightning speed, slicing through the orcs that swarmed around him. Jinwoo unleashed a flurry of slashes, his movements so rapid that the orcs encircling him were no match for his skill. The hunters watched in awe as Jinwoo fought, wondering why he had hidden his abilities and worked as a porter instead. In the midst of the battle, Jinwoo realized that his mana was depleting rapidly as he regenerated his shadow warriors. He knew he had to end the fight quickly. However, Kargo then cast his spell, incinerating the shadow warriors and leaving Jinwoo stunned. Kargo then taunted, "Your warriors are useless. Even if they can regenerate, your mana will run dry before you can slaughter all my soldiers." Jinwoo leapt into the air, declaring that he would bring Kargalgan down before that happened. He lunged at Kargalgan with his dagger, but Kargalgan's magic barrier effortlessly deflected the attack, sending him flying backward. Kargalgan cast a spell, the Hymn of the Blessing Fire, a devastating spell that unleashed a barrage of explosions, annihilating the remaining shadow warriors on the battlefield. Jinwoo reluctantly admitted to himself that Kargalgan was far more powerful than Vulcan in Métis. He retrieved a potion from his inventory to replenish his mana. Determined to end this battle once and for all, he uttered one word: "Arise." Jinwoo extracted the corpses of high orc monsters, transforming them into his new shadow warriors. And then he said, "Are you shocked to see your soldiers become my shadows? Prepare yourself, as you will become my warrior soon." Kargalgan was taken aback by Jinwoo's abilities. He recognized it as the ability of a monarch and wondered why a monarch would side with humans. Suddenly, an order to hunt down the humans flashed through his mind. He was puzzled as to why he should kill all humans, as there was no reason for the monsters to obey such a command. Nevertheless, Kargalgan brushed aside his doubts and issued a command to his orc generals: "Go cut them into pieces and offer their bloody corpses to me." Jinwoo smirked and replied, "This will be an exciting clash between generals. Let's see who comes out on top." One of the orc generals lunged at Iron with his sword, but Iron managed to parry the blow with his axe. The fight seemed evenly matched. But then Iron slammed his helmet against the orc general's head, knocking him dizzy, seizing the opportunity. Iron delivered the final blow with his axe, sending the orc general crashing to the ground. Meanwhile, 2 orc generals charged at Igris simultaneously. Igris parried one orc general's sword swipe with his sword, then swiftly dodged the other orc's blow by leaping into the air. Igris whipped out his dagger and plunged it right into the orc's head, killing him instantly. The other orc lunged, but Igris managed to block the attack with his sword. He then swung his blade, sending the orc flying through the air. On the other side, Iron prepared to deliver the final blow to the orc who had been knocked towards him. And finally, all the orc generals were defeated. Jinwoo chuckled. "Looks like my generals are far superior." Kargalgan's eyes widened in disbelief, unable to comprehend the scene unfolding before him. One hunter roared, "We can't just watch, let's join him." Suddenly, Kargalgan declared, "The audience is not to interfere with the show." He unleashed a torrent of curses, sending waves of unbearable pain through the hunters, silencing their defiance. He then unleashed a barrage of dark magic at Jinwoo: Hymn of Slumber, Hymn of Lethargy, Hymn of Blindness. However, his spells fizzled uselessly. The system notification popped up. Status effect has been removed due to the effect of immunity. Shock contorted Kargalgan's face. His curses were useless. Jinwoo spoke, "Don't you remember what I told you? I'm a bad matchup for you." Then he handed the Orb of Avarice to the Shadow Mage. With a surge of power, the Shadow Mage conjured a colossal fireball and hurled it at Kargalgan, shattering his magic barrier. Meanwhile, Hunter Cha had arrived at the scene, her eyes widening in disbelief at the sight of the battle between the Shadow Warriors and the High Orc army unfolding before her. She wondered how Jinwoo could summon so many creatures, when even the best hunter mages could only control 2 or 3 at most. Approaching the injured hunters, she inquired about their condition and urged them to retreat immediately, warning them of the danger of the ensuing battle. Meanwhile, Kargalgan was so furious after his magic barrier was destroyed. He unleashed his most potent spells, the Hymn of Rage, the Hymn of Strengthening, the Hymn of Giants, the Hymn of Combustion, causing his body to morph into a towering behemoth. With a haughty sneer, he declared his intention to crush everything beneath his feet like mere insects. Jinwoo's response was a look of pity, he said. "I have bad memories with giant enemies. You're touching my sore spots." Kargalgan conjured a colossal fireball and hurled it towards Jinwoo, the impact creating a fiery inferno that engulfed the surrounding area. However, Jinwoo nimbly leapt out of the way, delivering a swift and powerful blow directly to Kargalgan's eye. Meanwhile, Jinchoo had also arrived at the scene, his eyes widening in astonishment at the fierce battle unfolding before him. Both he and Hunter Cha were rendered speechless by the spectacle. Hunter Cha turned to Jinchoo, inquiring about Jinwoo's true identity. Jinchoo admitted that he only knew bits and pieces about him. As the battle raged on, Jinwoo unleashed a relentless barrage of dagger strikes upon Kargalgan, delivering a final blow that sent the dungeon boss crashing to the ground. Now standing over Kargalgan, Jinwoo was flanked by the 3 shadow orc generals. With a cold voice he declared, "The moment a magician loses his guard, they have 0 chance of winning." Kargalgan, refusing to accept his defeat, roared in defiance. However, the 3 shadow orc generals swiftly retaliated, delivering the final blow that ended his life. A system notification popped up. "Dungeon boss has been slain, you leveled up." As usual, a sweet Luke drop materialized right after he vanquished the dungeon boss. Jinwoo figured that since this dungeon was the property of the Hunters Guild, he wouldn't be greedy and decided to only extract the boss's corpse as his reward. Arise! A black shadow emerged from Kargalgan's corpse, filling the surrounding area, and Kargalgan was successfully extracted. The hunters were amazed by this ability, stunned to see Jinwoo summon the dungeon boss's corpse as his shadow warrior. Jinwoo named his new shadow warrior, "Now I'll call you, Tusk." Then he thought that gaining power from a high orc was advantageous, but he had to manage his shadow storage by sending shadows beyond the limit to nothingness and keeping the rest. Extraction cancelled. As he turned around, Jinwoo was surprised to see Jinchul and Hunter Cha at the scene, having been so engrossed in the fight that he hadn't noticed their arrival. The hunters approached Jinwoo and asked him all sorts of questions. However, the surveillance team quickly stepped in to protect him, Jinchul said. "We came from the Association Surveillance Division. The association supervises Hunter Jinwoo, and this affair is a top-secret matter that can't be revealed to the public. Once we leave the dungeon, we will provide an adequate explanation, but please remain silent about the scene you've witnessed here. If you have any questions, you can contact the association for more information." Abruptly, Kihun requested their attention and said, "I won't ask why you volunteered as a porter. We were able to survive thanks to you. Let me thank you on behalf of our entire attack force." The hunters then bowed their heads as a gesture of sincere gratitude. Before leaving, Jinwoo returned the will that was entrusted to him earlier, as she had managed to survive and could deliver the will herself. After that he left escorted by the Hunter Association surveillance team. Meanwhile, Hunter Cha, who had been looking for Jinwoo earlier, hesitated to call out to him since he was now leaving with an escort from the Hunter Association. Then one of the hunters noticed Hunter Cha carrying a pickaxe and inquired about it, causing her to feel a bit self-conscious. As the night fell, Jinwoo kept his promise to meet with Jinho. During their encounter, Jinho shared the outcome of his negotiations with his father. He had secured permission to become the guild master of Guild Yojin, but under one condition, Jinwoo had to join the guild. Jinho assured him that he would not pressure Jinwoo, respecting whatever decision he made. Jinwoo fell silent, deep in thought, contemplating Jinho's proposition. The scene shifts to the Hunters Guild headquarters. Kihun made his way to Guild Master Choi to deliver a report. He recounted the events of the recent raid in detail. Taken aback and incensed by this revelation, Master Choi demanded to know Jinwoo's motives. Kihun was unaware of Jinwoo's motives, but he was certain that it was not to disrupt the guild raid. Instead, Jinwoo intervened when he realized the strike team would be wiped out. Kihun then explained further about Jinwoo's extraordinary abilities, which he had witnessed firsthand. Master Choi's mind raced as he processed the details of Jinwoo's abilities, summoning creatures, assassin-like agility, and even reanimating monsters to fight for him. These are the abilities we've seen so far, but if he has more hidden abilities, he is even stronger. Curiosity piqued. Master Choi asked Kihun if you compared Jinwoo and me, who would come out on top. Kihun pondered for a moment before replying. And then he said, each hunter has a specific role that complements the team and covers individual weaknesses. A successful raid team requires tanks, healers, mages, and fighters. Without all these roles, the team is vulnerable. However, Jinwoo is an anomaly. He possesses the remarkable ability to conquer high-level dungeons alone. Master Choi's eyes widened in surprise at this revelation. He acknowledged that no matter how powerful he was, if he were swarmed by monsters, he would struggle to survive. His title of the ultimate soldier would pale in comparison to Jinwoo's prowess.